Begin our conversation about resources for veterans and military families with Republican Congressman Scott Fitzgerald from Juneau. Thanks so much for being with us.
Good to be with you. Good to be with you.
So you're a veteran yourself. How do you think the attention to veterans issues has changed since your own service?
I think there has been a greater focus on a lot of the issues in and around healthcare. For many years, certainly as a state legislator, and then that has followed me to Congress as well, a lot of discussion about the VA and not only the facilities, but the care that's been given to veterans going back certainly to the 70s, when a lot of both World War II and Korean vets were part of that system. And quite honestly, it was lacking. There was not enough significant care that was given. And so you would hear about it quite often from vets that had sought service at the VA. But things had improved. But there is always room for improvement when it comes to more benefits and healthcare delivery for veterans. So there seems to be much more focus right now. And just this latest congressional session, the 117th Congress, there's been a couple of achievements, including a major initiative called the PACT Act, which made its way through both houses and will help when it comes to delivering much needed health insurance and health care to a number of different veterans that have served and had different types of exposures as a result of their service. So there is a greater focus on it right now, I think.
So let's talk a little bit more about the PACT Act. You know, we just got done with campaign season, right? And I was reading up one of the interviews you did before your own reelection, and you called the PACT Act what you were most proud of that Congress did over the last couple of years. One, can you give us a little more details about who's eligible for these benefits? I know basically a lot of the veterans have been exposed to things like toxic burn pits, but then also, why do you think it did take so long for Congress to get this done?
Well, you're right. Let me back up a little bit. I mean, there was a discussion that has ensued over many, many years about specific service members that had different types of exposures, and whether or not, first and foremost, there could be a class action suit filed, which you're seeing some of that right now, the Camp Lejeune stuff that is out there, where many attorneys are trying to reach out and contact veterans so that they could be part of those lawsuits. But beyond that, you're right, the burn pit stuff and the exposures to toxic chemicals was kind of the tip of the spear when it came to this entire piece of legislation. But along with that, there are many other items, I think, that have moved to a mandatory spending column, which brought on some controversy, whether or not it's something that need to be revisited on a regular basis, or if it was going to be, a mandatory item. I'm pleased to report that, there was consensus built in the House on it. It made its way over to the Senate. It kind of hit kind of a rough spot over there, where there was discussion among some of the U.S. senators as to whether or not they could support it in the form that it came over from the House in. And at the end of the day, there was, what I would consider somewhat of a legislative compromise. Not much of a change, but pressure began to build. And there was agreement, and then obviously the president signed it into law. So I think it's a good example of a piece of legislation that, if there is a bipartisan effort and certainly a compromise worked out between the houses, it is the one area that should not become partisan. And certainly I think that's part of the success of the PACT Act, is that it made it through, and it's going to take care of millions of veterans across this nation. And it's long overdue, and they deserve the care.
Let's look ahead. I mean, what else do you think could be done or needs to be done going forward, other improvements that could help care for veterans here at home?
I think one of the things that's receiving a lot of discussion as of late is a bill that I'm a co-sponsor on, and I'm sure it'll come back in the 118th Congress in a similar form. But let me just describe the concept, because it's been out there for some time, but I don't know that it's got a ton of attention. There is an initiative to, instead of having some of the vets simply participate in the healthcare system through the VA, that there would be a way for them to simply mesh with local healthcare. So if you're a veteran that lives in the 5th District, and it doesn't matter whether you live in Fort Atkinson or Watertown or Hartford, you could go to your local doctor, your local physician to get care, or your local hospital to get care, and that those services would be simply billed back to one of two federal systems. Kind of a different concept than what the VA was, which was you had to travel to one of the facilities that was deemed a VA center so that you could garner some of that care. So it's not a it's not like a new idea that's out there, but it seems to be gaining some traction. And there is a system right now for a lot of the retirees called TRICARE, which has been kind of a model for how this could work. And I think it's one of the reasons that it's getting it's garnering more scrutiny is probably the best way to put it.
Congressman Scott Fitzgerald is a Republican from Juneau. Thanks so much for being with us here on In Focus.
Great to be with you guys. Thank you very much.